错南见着了偏切三见准备说三界去当初见着南就本的的呢就是见大给见所见别错南见着了偏切三见准备说。
Until awakening, I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma,
愿
and the
对无愤
Supreme
恨之敌
Essence.
人、伤害之邪魔，以及一切阻断我解脱得正遍智者为主之等虚空一切如母众生，俱得离苦，迅速得正阿耨多罗三藐三菩提。是故直至正得佛果，身口意三行善，直至死亡身口意三行善。从今直至明日此时，身口意三行善。四无量心，愿一切众生具得极乐因，愿一切众生离苦及苦因，愿众生不离无苦之妙乐，愿永离爱憎，常住平等舍。
May they be liberated from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion.
这瓦丹不见下巴他也是也让故人所以给外众生的给介绍吧他们这左边长久前后
Whatever slight
七支供养
have accumulated through prostration, offering, confession, rejoicing, beseeching, and requesting, I dedicate it all for the sake of complete enlightenment. Om Manda 香水涂饰花朵铺满地，圣山四周日月为庄严。愿念佛刹以作供养故，愿诸众生受用清净土，景象三身圆满上师众。外内密三真如以供养，无生之财万物悉受以，无上殊胜成就其次语。Om Guru Devata Gini Ratna Mandala Bhakti Soha. With my body, wealth, and all that is visible, please grant me the supreme realization and enlightenment.一切众生之施惠，根器不同而见之，共以不同大小乘殷勤祈请殷勤转法轮。
let me do. All the sentient beings, according to the mental disposition, I will try to develop Dharma. Laswala.
Lama Thamba Nanda Chan Zajan Juda Jabzan Jiva Janjala Branzado So Dojin Chawan Delo Naroda Marmada Muparin Jidanga Garin Sumden Zave Lame Shava Zaji Lama Yedam Chuzong Survandil Soda Jushinjelo and Chenzingada Damba Zozanje Kandramanga Bardena Marashara Tujira Jetarvelam Damba Yunzenshin Namla Gujan Soda Hame Mamji Wambotang Jarjila Chuji Chola Chawa Cheban Sanji Sora Rabda Shishin Deve and Jirva Tadan Cheje Tambe Shuni Bari Andrishi Lariang Tene Namkadanyambe Simjen Tamchege Tundu Tene Tobjalana Meba Yandabra Zuga Sanjige Kumbatamba Jinejan Tobracha Tichedu Tene Tambe Chu Samula Chebada Nyemba Chigin Sambe Samba Chanchun Chodu Tujiva Sadan the same.
Now listen with the motivation of helping all sentient beings. In order to help other sentient beings, may I attain enlightenment. So with this kind of motivation, kindly listen to the Dhamma teaching.
我们要做如是的发心，为了解救众生于完全的证悟，脱离轮回。我愿意来听，我发心来听受这种法教，也就是共其正法一义的法教。
哦呀，他，学校的开始呢，那他们就公布几个用，我到的学了几个搞热，那天就在那他课上能做多接送，那将来一切的他学新巴的这个，他多去学出来了。一天的呢嘛，他多接送居住班的工作现在的学校的这个。他刚才看上多接送将来把一切的学出来了，将来一切的学新巴的，他天刚才的嘛多送居住呢的那工作现在的学校的这个。先生。인치 개줄 튼다. 캠복글레기 타자데 야보겠어 말아.
저는 뭐 제한지 찍소나 지금 와서.
아무도 가상 dorjison jonga ba inche de shu sembar wala ta te indu sane tren ndo dorson chidu ne indu sine da shu atende jeans.
So yesterday we have been teaching about up until the Vajra verses, the 15th Vajra verses. Now from today, we are going to talk or give the teachings from the Vajra verses, that is 16th Vajra verses.
昨天我们讲这个共其正法一义的金刚偈颂，已经讲到第15偈了。那今天会从第16偈开始。
제단계 되는지 남바 산지백이 지선 중에 제버도 내가 다지 냐미 가주백이 진죽지 리디 인도 산에 되는 체맥이 빼샷된 소역이 돌아 믹세게 되는 돈한 지구야 되스케요 말레스 좀생 가르치는 데서는 체마세야 되는 뭐마 치료 못이 받아 펜춘지다 쪼바제야 치료 되는 잠샤베기 되는 빼샷된 데시레스나 가시게 되는데 삼로 단계 요래 가시게 되는데 시행견 되는데 양 용되기로 다단단 지된 성공의 가르송교에서는 텐데 말레스 체마세야 때문에 벤nen가 친구지긴 지레스 좀생 가르에서는 체맥이 나라 땅원에긴 탈두기지 셰야 유네메나 체맥이 빼잡던 쪽이 땡라 와야 유네메나데 가서는 산지게 되는 넘버 탐진 침배 이시대 간대 인민데 땡라 와인 거요레스 근데 인도산에 체맥이 용데 문에 되는지 산지기 공황 토브른데베 강사기 퇴바당 삼바당 공부치 세계 니베지 송라 자진부터 되지레스는 대송바인 말에听着 삼마 산진침배 이시대 송바래
The 16 Vajra verses, what it talks about is the valid knowledge is the Buddha's knowing wisdom. Reason why the Lord Jiten Sungin stated that is that during that time, when you are a kind of Buddhist practitioner, and especially when you are the Kajupa tradition, most of the people think that we don't need a logic, we don't need a tema, which is the logic and the valid logic. Why? Because we straight go to the practice, and we are the practitioner, and all this valid knowledge of this logic and so forth are just to debate with the non-Buddhist practitioner. Somehow here Lord Jiten Sungin said that this is completely misunderstood. The logic is very important. Why? Because in order to prove that the Buddha is a valid teacher and his all-knowing omniscient knowledge is valid, to know that we have to have these logical teachings, and in order to prove that all this is valid, and on the basis of this logical knowledge, we can prove that the Buddha is valid there. Buddha is then also the state of Buddhahood is possible. The omniscient is possible through the study of the knowledge. So therefore, the valid knowledge is very important. Therefore, it's not the valid knowledge is the Buddha's knowing wisdom.
那第16偈颂就是在这个中文的讲义第3页那边，正量乃为佛智之智慧。那么在过去呢，佛陀那个时代，有些这个佛陀之后，有一些佛教徒呢，特别是噶举巴的行者呢，不认为应该去学逻辑这种因明学。为什么呢？因为他们就直接在闭关修行了。那他们认为这些修行者，有些修行者认为，因明学乃是佛教徒跟外道在辩论这个佛法的所的主要用到的，而他们直接修行的话就不需要这个。所以那个时候吉田松公主师就说这种看法是不对的，有错误的见解，因为佛陀乃是一个正法教者，那么一切的法都是圆满正确的，所以呢我们可以学习因明来证明佛陀真实存在，佛果是真实可证。
And why he stated that is that because of studying on the valid knowledge, that is the logical reasoning and logical valid knowledge, it reveals the profundity of the emptiness. When we do the study training through the listening, a right way of listening, right way of contemplating, and right way of meditating. And through that, what happened is we could able to reveal the ultimate nature of reality, that is the emptiness, the profundity of emptiness. Therefore, what Jiten Sumin says is that we should respect and we should do study for that valid knowledge or the logic.
第17偈，成正量果而亦深空性。那在这边讲到说，吉田松公祖师再次的阐扬，为什么逻辑因明是重要的？因为这个逻辑，这个因明学可以让我们就是了解到空性。那我们如果透过正确的闻思修3个阶段来修习佛法的话，那我们可以展现出究竟的这个理，也就是空性。所以吉田松公祖师认为说，我们应要尊重因明，因为透过因明，我们加上这种闻思修的过程当中，自然可以了解到这个空性的真正的道理。
강사 현다지 인데만도 근데지 상무당들과 대상무당에 만주 벤낭바이 만주 모티바 말에 만주 문에 배웠다지 야부진 세안도다 근데게 고지 상무지 케인고와 띵도 전전은 지딘 송군게 내내 가르송고에서는 모티바 세두잔에 지 벤나 사제 현다지라 출루다 춘탁하가지 근데게 깨자데 말에스 모티바 세인도 잔에 조 가르에서는 나랑서 소속의 섬긴낭라 나단 네 출루디페 한사야 자침보 야후인 섬대야 직당 나단 네 출루 마인베게 출루 현다당 춘타 현다당 같은 소체되지 쩐다 제발에 논주윤 켄지레스는 텐데기 즉 초신긴 짐바지 다 나주 용대여와 띵이 전에 텐데기 초신긴 짐바데 술을 연양 티모티바레스 마도 모티바스도 전에지 도로 만다와 근견지 계자 만다와 신견지 사자 만다와 지를 댕긴 텐데 말레스 조 가서는 모티바 인다민 소소술상 당구레스 소소게 되네 섬게 나라 네 tum다데 빼야 보인 네 출루데 빼야 보인 네 라마데 빼야 보인 연다게 라마 된소 빼 논주윤 켄레 연다게 출루 된소 쩐윤 켄지레 연다게 tum다 된소 양다와 말에 삼백에 초랑게 섬게 나라 텐데 장애 인진게 어지 예바이나 텔레 모티바 슬라브레스 띵도 전에 모티바 소소게 줄랑도다 문도데 소소 다시 당고레스 테마도 칠로지라 모티바지 유지레 삼바이나 텐 노르바레스 테송바르다
Now the 18th Vajra verses, what it stated here is that all the upholder of the tenets are dogmatists. What it means is that usually we talk about the non-Buddhists, we talk about the person other than us, and we believe ourselves as a Buddhist, and we believe ourselves as one of the superior, the practitioner of the Buddhism, and also once on, we have a strong sense of grasping or strong sense of superiority to ourselves, that our teacher, our teaching, and our tradition is best of the best, and the rest other than us is the worst of worst. And we have this kind of bias of thinking that other than us, all they are non-Buddhists and we are the Buddhists. But this is a kind of grasping, and in reality, we have to examine ourselves whether you are in real Buddhist, whether you are non-Buddhist. Is we have to examine within ourselves in our practice, in our day-to-day life, that whenever we have a kind of bias, we have grasping to ourselves, then this is not a non-Buddhist. So Buddhist doesn't mean you have to grasp for yourself and feel a superiority. So therefore, what Lord Jigten Sumit stated is that even if you are saying that you are Buddhist, or you are being born in Buddhist or whatever, but if you feel that this kind of bias is there within you, then this is known as non-Buddhist. So therefore, we have to examine yourself, we have to examine ourselves, whether we have this kind of bias or this kind of nonsense happening within us.
那么第18偈，一切宗派执取皆自續。那这边讲的是说，我们常常认为自己是佛教徒，然后呢跟外道呢有所区别，但是我们必须要来检视一下这个道理是不是真的。一般佛教徒常常会认为佛教徒是比外道其实从名相上来讲，认为佛教徒比外道还好，还正确等等，这种是一种很强的执着，也是一种自以为是，认为自己或者是自己的老师比较好的，比较更加的殊胜的，那这是一种偏见。那当我们有了这种佛教徒跟佛教徒并且加以比较的时候，这是一种执着。所以今天总公主是在这边提醒我们，我们应该检视自己的所行，自己的修行也好，日常的行止是不是自己所作所为真的是一个佛教徒。如果说我们自己认为我们是佛教徒，但是见解上却有所偏颇，便有这种评断之心的话，那么这跟外道有什么差别呢？所以我们应该要好好的检视自己的思维，跟自己修行，跟平常生活的行止。
And what Lord Jigten emphasizes is that we have a teaching. We have a teaching of sutra, and we have a teaching of like tantra, and also in like India, Nagarjuna, and also Asanga, and many great teachers came, and they have written a lot of commentaries for the Buddha's teaching. And also after that, in Tibet and also in India, we have had a lot of great masters who have been composing the commentaries in order to come down, in order to tame our mind, in order to correct our mistaken mind. So rather than doing this, these teachings are supposed to correct ourselves, to find the mistake within ourselves, and to solve the problem within ourselves. But if we are not doing this, rather than if we do debate or we make an objection to other like kind of tradition, non-Buddhist, taking other as a non-Buddhist and make a debate and objections. So this is not the point what Lord Jigten wants to make. What he said is, we have to look within ourselves, whether we are real Buddhists. If we are real Buddhists, then we have to study the teachings of all these masters done, and we have to examine ourselves, whether we are really doing practice, whether we are really taming our mind, and so on and so forth, rather than doing debate and objection. And what Lord Jigten said is that the teachings of the Buddha is not to debate with other tradition, not to make an objection for the other tradition. It is just to correct oneself, to make a correction for our own practice or on thinking and our own practice.
那在今天宋公主是讲说，在佛教里面，我们有所谓的经教跟密续的这种 分类。那么在印度呢，我们有那个龙树菩萨、阿桑嘎等等的这大师。那么不管在印度也好，在西藏也好，也有许多的大学者大论师，他们写的很多著作，主要就是用以来降服我们自己的心事，并且观察、了解跟观察自己的内心，予以修正。这些论著呢，这些佛法并不是用来跟佛教徒来辩论的。那么佛陀的法教也不是让我们用来排斥外道的。主要呢，他们是要让我们用来省思，来修正我们自己的行为的。所以今天松公祖师提醒我们，我们应该要有这样子的理解才对。
남바이나 타마 연대 연케 장장 말에 무티바이나 준 연케 지고야 말에 강에서는 나라서 남바 마인 베게 추룩 현다게 나라 게웨게 두자 빼망고 요레스 난속이 메페타고에 빼망고 요레스 빼나 추룩 베게 되네지 다 남바 마인 베게 춤타 현다게 나라 추룩 현다게 나라 난속수 리찰랭고에 빼망고 요레스 르게 되네지 쨀람게 토네 나게 쨀람게 토네 디나신 되네지 이게 쨀람게 토네 망부지 빼라야 요레스 데인도 전에 치료 못이바 세인도 지 쨀장장 인den게 지다 논출장장 인den게 지 자원인什么말에
刚刚讲到阿桑嘎就是无着菩萨。
양자백의 차대 술을 여는 나랑 속에 드는 술 랭고레 어때 송바이 말에 대인도 전에 못이 빨랑 예외 두자만 어때 송
The 19 virtual verses, a folder of extreme views, also have many virtuous practices. So what it means here is that some of the practitioner, Buddhist practitioner, they think and they talk about, if you are Buddhist, then all of virtuous things happen within you. And if you're non-Buddhist, then you take it, non-Buddhist, as all the mistake. Whatever they do is mistake. And whatever they do is non-virtuous things. So what the Lord Jigten Sungmin state is that this is a kind of misunderstanding. Even if you're not a Buddhist, it is possible that you might have virtuous deeds. You might have a good example through your body, speech, and mind. And there are a lot of things we have to learn from the non-Buddhists. It doesn't necessarily mean if you're not Buddhist, then it doesn't necessarily mean you don't have a good quality. Even the non-Buddhist person has also a good quality. And therefore, what he stated here is that we should learn which is good quality, even if they are not Buddhist. And we have to abandon the bad qualities if they exist within oneself, even if you're being Buddhist. So therefore, we should not just make discriminations or demarcation that just being a non-Buddhist, you are not having, you don't have good qualities. So this is how we have to practice, and we have to take the knowledge, good knowledge or good practice that the non-Buddhists have it. So we have to learn from them. This is what he states.
第19偈讲的是，即使处道亦多有修善。这边讲说，佛教徒常常认为自己的法门有很多的功德，而认为外道的修行、外道的论著是谬误的。 那么给予大部分有负面的评价。那吉田松公主是在这边指出来，这种见解是错误的。我们要知道，非佛教徒亦有一些善法跟善行，在他们的身口意方面都有这样子的状况，并不是说没有任何可取之处的。所以我们要做的是应该要取长补短，取他人之长，然后舍弃不善的地方，来增益自己的修行，而并不是说仅仅来歧视外道。这种见解，这种行为是不对的。
람 친지 말로 뜸배기 뜸바 양타과 임바지 생문나랑 수 이치지당 켈렌지 고요래 딘티지 여바이나 대개 산제라 잡순도와 생무요래 되네 산제 대개 송배기 최대 나랑 쪽이 내갑당 타르두기 펜데 두비아기 람 마너와 임바지 이치바당 람 마너와 임바지 켈렌바지 중앙이나 되게 돈은 출라 잡수 송아 생비요로 출라 잡수 송아스 근데 대나신도 산제 되게 송배 추 람텐데지 배 산제게 송바나 진전에 냠수 랭켄기 강사된데지라 겐든스는 송는 거요래 텐데게 겐든데 나랑 되는지 추 양타바 드베기 조 양타바지 인삼바다 텐데게 켈렘바당 이치바 텐데오지라 겐두나 잡순도와 세용유 티치도 전에 전에다던데 치료 못이 바당 남바 산지바세게 제발 좋은 로데 간데도는 제거서나 텐데기 잡순 로출 된다고 여당 매게 토네 근데 지난게 제발은 제고레스 대마도 지 남배에게 빼나 나도 다지 산지기 납사세거나 한다 산지기 진주기 둘로 그런데야라고 제다 나한테는 남바 인서 소소기 지 칸에 다서 랍데와 지구가 남바 차도 말레스 남바 인더 민 세야데 점루 양타와 예매게 도는데 제발 제고레 세야 대송바레
Now the question arises, if that is the case, like, the virtuous deeds in action, even the non-Buddhists also have virtuous deeds in action, same as like the Buddhists has virtuous deeds in action. So now the question arises, how do we differentiate between the Buddhists and non-Buddhists? So now here the verses 20 states that the difference between the two is that one who goes refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. This is the demarcation between the Buddhists and non-Buddhists. If you have a kind of conviction to the Buddha that he is kind of the valid teacher who cannot, who can teach you, who can show you the path to all the way to the enlightenment, and also the teaching of the Buddha is a valid teaching by studying it, then which can lead to ultimate enlightenment. And at the same time, if you can have a conviction or a belief to the person who really practiced that's the Sangha, and who is like a friend, the community friend, Sangha, to do the practice, the Dharma, and finally to attain, who can help us to attain the Buddhahood. So if you go with the understanding and with the respect of that, we can go refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha respectively. Then this is known as the Buddhists, and this is the different, the demarcation between the Buddhists and non-Buddhists.
所以可能有人就会有一个疑情了。如果说外道也有善法、有善行的话，那我们如何来分辨佛教徒跟外道呢？那这个第20个偈颂，就是针对这边而写的。内外差别以
皈依分之，也就是佛教徒跟外道的差别，主要就是佛教徒会皈依佛法僧三宝。我们相信，我们确信这个佛陀是我们正法的教师，可以一直指导我们到我们究竟正悟为止。而佛法呢，就是我们所学习的道理，修行的材料，那么让我们能够一直证得究竟正悟。那僧团就是我们的同行善法友，可以一直陪伴我们一起切磋，一直到证得佛果为主。如果我们是以这样子的信念的话，那么这个就是佛教徒的信念，就是我们要皈依佛法僧三宝。那至于外道，他们就不见得有这样子皈依三宝的这个部分了。所以这边内指的就是佛教徒，外指的就是外道，内外差别以皈依分之。然后第21偈是大小乘之差别为发心，大乘跟小乘的差别是在于发心。
티버 첨부세야 돼 가지고 요래 세인도 샘지 예바지 샘제바 세인도 전에 남주 나랑 저기 샘데 삼로기 니반도데 베자 충충래 저나 자 충충 베나 나랑 지고 차나 삼반도 야나 나랑단 레웨기 지 파말라소바 지고 차나 삼반도 야나 나랑단 레웨기 지 자캅디 지고 차나 삼반도 야나 간존 잠불레 도도 네강기 지 심전도 지고 차나 사마도다 된대게 삼로 데스 자체형도 지 용구요로와 하던데 심제바 생도 전에 된대게 심 델레 다동배 심 치르다네 심베 자침부지 전에 전에 남가다님베 심전 탐제 세 삼당고와 남가다님베 심전 탐제스 된대게 심전 탐제에 대해 나나신 나라나신 샘게 토네 대화 토비알라페 레와 침부 대바슈 침부 연행기 강사지 임바데 징송레 심진 상만데 디인도 텐데게 심진 탐체데 아직 내가게 대wan 침부 토바이나 코 펜토스 개요 말에 되게 제라 야 동해지간 호랑신기 렘도야 되지로와 디인도 전에 삼로 델레야 슈체르 땅에 앞에 심전기 장케 토는 상담이나 남가다님의 심전 탐체 미유르게 토는 상담이나 텐소 참만데 산지기 공방 토바지 지기 300에다 셈베 자침부지바 데레지라 장주기 셈세기로와 디인류산에 아티바 침보도 총총세야데 셈 텐데지 연케이나 저랑 포이나인 디그리 모이나인 디그리 로침보이나인 디그리 총총이나인 디그리 zubu dewo yonayin digiri zubu la nasa yunken chayinayin digiri kaandarayang samlo tendeji yo tsawayina churang tiba chimbu gi nangla yatini tsuyu tsawa res di indu tendegi samlo ji tang matuba yina tene nga tikchin yin sa lab ken len nga pe pen tombo yin sayandro nga pe tiba chimbu gi chuy nyanglen chigi yo sa laba yina yang churang tikchin nalang mune china tsuyu tu ma res tende indu tiba chimbu dang chunchung gi chebarade 심지게 예와 제국에 대송발에
Now the 12 Vajra verses, it stated that the difference between the great and the common vehicle is the generation of bodhicitta. Why did the Lord Jitendra state that? He states that what he says that just by studying the teaching of the greater vehicle and just by doing pujas at the temple of the like where there is a like conducive factor of the greater vehicle doesn't make you a greater vehicle. Rather, you have to have the motivation of like benefiting all other sentient beings, not just by like we think about like for oneself and one's family or one's society or the sentient beings on this earth. This is a small kind of scope. And what Jiten Sumin said is, we have to go beyond that. We have to go, if we have a motivation, like all other mother sentient beings, as vast as the sky, and all sentient beings as vast as the sky has the same kind of feeling for one's for happiness and unwanting the suffering. And one should motivate that not just for the temporary happiness, but also from for free from all this kind of suffering and ultimately to attain the Buddhahood. So if you have this kind of motivation, whether it doesn't matter whether you are male or female, whether you are younger or older or bigger or smaller, doesn't make any difference. But if you have this kind of motivation to help other sentient beings, all sentient beings as vast as the sky have the peace and happiness, and finally to attain the Buddhahood. And this is a motivation which makes a differences between the greater vehicle and a common vehicle. So if you have this kind of motivation, then it's known as the greater vehicle. So this is the differences between the two among the Buddhists, like greater scope and the like kind of common vehicle, greater vehicle and common vehicle.
那第21偈刚刚有念过，就是大小乘之差别为发心。我们要知道菩提心乃是大小乘的差别，透过这个修学大乘的经典以及做一些仪轨啊、火供等等的仪轨，并不就是说这些外在的行为就让我们变成大乘了。主要我们所谓的大乘就是要看自己的发心是不是在利益一切众生而定。如果说我们只想到我们自己，或者是我们的社区、我们的家园、国家等等，这还是有范围的小范围的。但是如果我们是想到一切如母有情众生都想要离苦得乐，都想要得到究竟之乐，远离一切苦而究竟成佛的话，有这样的心态，无论他们是男性或女性或老或幼等等，我们要愿一切在虚空里面的有情众生都能证得佛果，这个就是大乘跟小乘之间的区别。那么这个区别主要就是在发这个愿众生能够成佛这个菩提心。那小乘他用的英文是 common vehicle。那在之前发给各位的这个正法一义的这个中文讲义里面，第3页就是开始这个偈颂了，从第1偈开始。诸法开示本性之实相，8万法门一致为修佛，3藏密续为修道次第，3转法轮因弟子差别，每一法轮中亦具3者，前中有后之种子，要欲于3法轮中确定，律藏蕴藏四谛法轮中，各类佛乘许了义法轮，6边密义皆许为了义，唯心佛义离系中道义，虽为颠倒世俗能作用，所有道法实地悉去行，彼亦确定为由次第路，亦有最初极断所知障，正量乃为佛智之智慧，成正量果而亦深空性，一切宗派取执皆自续，即使处道亦多有修善，内外差别以皈依分之，大小乘之差别为发心，显与密之差别在灌顶。
Now the virtual verses, 22nd virtual verses. The difference between the sutra and mantra is empowerment. Why he stated that is that usually there is a sutra and mantra. And when you practice the sutra, you don't have to take the empowerment. And you can do your practice of practice of generosity, practice of morality, and so on and so forth. But whereas if you want to do the practice of the mantra, you have to first take empowerment from the master, and you have to get the instruction from the master that your body is like a deity, your speech is deity, and so on and so forth. Then after that, you go on practicing. Usually in those days, people, there's a saying that people say that sutra is very difficult and it takes a long time to practice, and the mantra is very easy. You don't have to go all this kind of long way, and you can practice and you can swiftly get the enlightenment. But what Jigten Sumin said is this is not the case. But here what he wants to make the point is that we have to have the empowerment. For the Sutrayana, we don't have to have the empowerment. But in the case of Mantrayana, first you receive all this kind of teaching, empowerment from the master, and introduce your body as a deity and so forth. And if you practice, then this is how you can practice the Mantrayana. So therefore, the difference between the sutra and mantra is to just to have your empowerment of doing or practice. So therefore, is known as the empowerment is the key point here to differentiate Sutrayana and Mantrayana.
第22计显与密之差别在灌顶。那么我们在讲到说一般的经教也好，密续、密咒称来讲，他们两边的差别在主要是在有没有的接受灌顶。我们如果说根据经教的法教来修行的话，那我们不必得灌顶也是可以的，我们可以直接来修布施、持戒等等的种种善法。但是如果我们今天要修学密咒称的话，那我们必须要从上师那边得到灌顶，让我们了解我们的身体就是本尊，语言就是咒语等等，依这些法这些再来做修行。所以一般人有一些误解，认为经教是很难的，需要花很多的时间来修学。那密咒称是一种速行道，那吉天颂公主在这边指出来，这种想法是见解是不对的。两个的差别是在密咒称呢，必须要有灌顶，介绍让我们了解到我们身体就是本尊等等等等。所以两者的差别是在于主要来自于灌顶本身。
상하게 냠니 지구로 되네 산지가 고모 톰루레 세야 같은데 먼저 삼로양 걸시바레 근데 야 다진 제시야 근데 용시바레 다 당연되는 지대의 성공을 가르친 거에서는 괜히 강음의 송도 강사직이 냠랭기 심패게 나라 도게 냠랭양 고그레라 나게 냠랭양 고레스 동아 니가게 냠랭라 때문에 산지게 공방 토고를 마도베 근데 너 냠랭 채나 나 먹어와당 나 냠랭 챙겨이나 너 먹어왔는데 채나 산지게 공방 톱시기 말레스 대니 강양 매바 강릉직 매바이나 조정 톱시기 말레스 대인도 전에 산지게 공방 톱을 제베기 냠랭기 좀 배나라 동아 니가게 냠랭데 차상화지고 그래스 대인도 전에 되니지 너당 나 세야게 냠랭 니보데 벤나 유림지 임바 다 디톤데 세우 땡게로 주름 세인도 전에 만조 빼나 당에 가상 빼셔나 신체나 돌지된도 찍네 남주나야 푸네 거기 와르나스도 지금 로고요나 주름 대가서나 남탕기 골람 만주네 남주나 랩투면도 남탕기 골람주 잘라든소라지 빡제체 되네 남주기 고가나 양주네 다 남주 나로 그 국자가나 되네 다 소소근 로세 사자 가와이나 되는 로고도 되인데 denso yurim jigwa kesi chura namthang ge gonen ju matho bayina namdu nana le mathu bare namdu nana le mathu bayina chura ron de se ge sacha de le mesi ban ro jigwa ti indu sane dodang na ge nyamne se ya de kansa ji ge nyamne ge yurim re ti indu ti yurim ni ga de ma chang wa yina kanyan ro wa ji ge sanje ko matho tu mare ti indu donga ni ge nyamne de ne sanje ge matho bu re se ya te sum bare
And the Vajra verses, 23.
23计，彼二若无不得成正觉。
It is impossible to attain the perfect awakening. And what it means here is, usually we have this kind of notion that if you are practicing Sutrayana, you don't have to practice the Mantrayana. Why? Because you can study emptiness. You can also practice about the compassion, bodhicitta, and so on and so forth, and you can attain Buddhahood. Likewise, here in the Mantrayana, you can practice the generation stage, completion stage. You don't have to practice, you don't have to practice the refuge. You don't have to practice the bodhicitta and all this. You can just go on practicing your generation stage and completion stage, and you become the Buddha. But whereas what the Lord Jesus says is that these two has to go in kind of like a continuation, the practice of one person's life. Like first you practice Sutrayana, then you go on practicing the Mantrayana. In the same way, for example, if you're going from here, from Bodh Gaya to Varanasi, first you have to go to the aeroplane. First you have to go to the door of the aeroplane, then you go to this seat, take a seat, and then you can fly. It is a kind of continuation of the practice. First you practice Sutrayana, then you come to the Mantrayana, and so on and so forth. And what the Lord Jesus said is that without having if either one of these two is missing, then we're not going to have enlightenment. We cannot be enlightened. Therefore, this is like kind of the stages of the path, the practice within one person's lifetime. So it has to be, both has to be practiced by one lifetime as a stages of the path. Lesson.
所以呢，在第23计讲的彼二若无不得成正觉，那因为一般人的误解是认为修习经教的人就不必学密咒乘，因为透过经教我们可以了解跟修行空性、悲心以及菩提心的等道理而证得佛果。那相对的呢，修密咒乘的人可以专注在修升起次第圆满次第，那不必去修皈依菩提心也可以成佛。那么吉田颂公祖师在这一记里面指出来，这种看法是不对的。这两者应该在人的一生中，在不同的阶段的都要修学的。比如说我们要从菩提迦叶要到瓦尔纳西这个城市呢，我们如果坐飞机的话，我们要先登上飞机，再坐到座位上，然后再这个飞到瓦尔纳西。所以呢吉田颂公祖师说，如果说我们修学只有一种没有另外一种的话，那我们是不可能就近证悟的，应该两者兼修，那么才能够真正的这个证悟，不可以偏颇一边，不去管另外一边。
nga deng nan iba de yedam ge larwa yedam ge ladang dinashin tene lame ge nenjur dinashin chaja chembo a chaja chembo te ndo ge chaja chembo yang yore nga ge chaja chembo yang yongre ti indu zane gang dar yang tene chakchen ge nala ndongha nige ge chakchen re tene yedam ge ladang lame nenjur ndo ji na zo tene nga ge nyang re tene tamandelang ngowan ndo ji na ndongha niga ge tene tenda 줄 domken dom jayan ro cha yung yo re ti chi du zane ndo dan nga ge lam yong su do wa de lam nga de na la tene chun ro wa chang ro wa de ji ge de yo re ti du zane tene nga zo yang ji cham cham san ji song be chu ge pong bu je je do ne pe sam ji me cha ba re ndo ge ko la yan pe mang bo re nga ge ko la yan pe mang bo re cha sang ji nyam su kan de len tu re sam ma ro ji yong se ba ro wa ti du zane cha sang su dong de wa de 남 찾아 친구 나den세야 팀도 자네 뭐다 텐데지가 냠수 내셔 봐이나 근데 대니 감이 조장 통메시 제가 강에 되는 거 말해 어떻게 지금 송발다
So what the Lord Jiten Sumgin stated here is that his master, the Phamotupa, instructed to him that when you are practicing, you have to practice in the fivefold path of Mahamudra. When you practice fivefold path of Mahamudra, the whole teaching of Sutrayana and Mantrayana or Tantrayana all integrate together. It comes together. So usually what happens is people think that how is that possible to practice all these 84,000 teachings of the Buddha because it's too vast. We cannot practice. We have no time. But what the Lord Jiten Sumgin said is, if you practice the fivefold path of Mahamudra, all the teachings of the Buddha were condensed here, whether it is Sutra or whether it's Tantra. For example, in the fivefold of Mahamudra, we have a first bodhicitta. And Phamotupa said their fivefold path. This first is bodhicitta, the second is the deity idam, and the third is the the yoga, the guru yoga, and the fourth is the Mahamudra, and the fifth is the dedication. So if you look at these fivefold, the first part, that is bodhicitta, is common to the Sutrayana and Mantrayana, and idam and the guru yoga belongs to the Mantrayana, whereas the Mahamudra belongs to both the Sutrayana and Tantrayana, and the final one, that is the dedication, also belongs to both the Sutrayana and Mantrayana. Therefore, so we have to practice these all fivefold of Mahamudra integrating within one person. Means in the sense that we are practicing both the Sutrayana and Tantrayana together. Without having either one of these, then we cannot accomplish the Buddhahood. So this is what he stressed and he emphasized, that we need to practice both Sutrayana and Mantrayana.
那么吉天颂公祖师在这边指出来说，他的上师帕摩祖巴祖师曾经给他有这个指示，就是修行的时候应该要修大手印五之道。那么因为大手印五之道是经教跟密续的法教都统整在这个法教当中，如果我们修大印五支的话，等于就是同时修的经教跟密续了。那么在大印五支里面要菩提心、本尊、上师瑜伽、大手印以及回向等等。就菩提心的修持来讲，这是经教跟密续都共有的。那本尊跟上师瑜伽呢，这是密咒称特有的。那至于大手印跟回向支呢，也是经教跟密续都有讲到的。所以当我们修大印五支的时候，等于同时的修了经教跟密续。如果我们舍弃了一边，那就不可能得正的。
每个같은 소고 섬진 시행의 돈도 제초기에 손도지 된도 소탈레 장심의 때 깔레시다 맨켄도 지금 문제 지금와 다 상하게 동바생도 상배 답되어지 그 양보지 된도 간도 참참 지제 도안에 세기도 간도 상하냐면 진행이 있으되 이 창조 통나야 가 상하냐면 진행이 있어야로 그진 통 초기에 손도지 대난신도 변하지 샤사야 콜라이나 가서 상하냐면 진행이 있어야로 그 상하게 깔라 가리나 그 제초에서도 지금 근데 some 땅도 근데 장행에 근데 잡이 유지로와 띠인도 전에 도 다단데 소수tarbe dom바당 장주선배 dom바당 상하게 dom바선도 전에 띠 dom바선보테 지 매기 가리를 간항 체계에서는 간도 호백을 땅도 상하게 dom바를 빼 간항 침보도 저런데는 소설그 dom바시고 그래서는 띠스 가래 카본도 상당히 임배서로 오지 왕지 쉬어서는 와야서는 남상 고지다 배치 지 술나로 치세야 로지 같은데 지 연구로 티지도 전에 먼저 소다라다 장선도 상하세야 돼 지시 카카임 배선로지 근데 상당히로 띵는 제된 송고 가르송 거였으나 tetza와는 말해스 dom바송가데 메게와 쪼뽕아 임발라 내가 찍어레스 저런 소다르게 dom바 양내 제나양 빵야 가르에서는 메게와 쪼빵고레스 따텔바 예와 채소는 망고 여름마도 손 놀드와이나 소소들베 dom바게야 메게와 쪼빵고레 장주선배 dom베까바야 제단지 송야다 빵야 망고 여르데 손 놀드와이나 메게와 쪼빵고레 이난신 상하게 dom베까바야 빵야데 가르서는 메게와 쪼보드레 두야데 게와 쪼드레 근데 인도 dom바숨 강게 값수 이나야 두자 게와 쪼 빵자 메게와 쪼 임발라 내가 찍바레스 어디 송바레
24戒三戒断除十恶皆同一。
The three set of vows have a single vital point in abandoning the 10 non-virtues. Why is it so that we have to the practice the three vows at a single vital point? Usually what we have is, if we have there are three kind of vows: the individual vows, bodhisattva vows, and the secret mantrayana vows. Usually what we think is, when we talk about the individual vows, we take it so difficult to observe the vows. Why? Because you are not allowed to kill, you're not allowed to thief, steal, or you're not allowed to do this and that. Whereas if you compare these individual vows with the bodhisattva vows, it's a little bit easier. You know, it's okay to do some kind of, there's excuse there. And if you come furthermore to the Vajrasattva vows, Vajrayana vows, then people think that it's more easy. You know, in the Vajrayana vows, you can do whatever you like. You can, you can drink your wine, you can eat meat, and so on and so forth and so on. But whereas Lord Jiten Sungin says that this is mistakes. This is not understanding the viewpoint of that, the vital point of that. So what is the vital point here? Is that in order to practice, like the individual vows, bodhisattva vows, or mantrayana vows, all has to practice the 10 virtues, and to abandon the 10 non-virtues is the all same. There must be differences between, like some is more and some is even more extension of the practice. But somehow if you go down, deep down, and to the point, the 10 non-virtues is the same non-virtues we have to abandon, whether it is individual, whether it's bodhisattva vows, or whether it is the mantrayana vows. So therefore there's no differences between the three vows, what to be observed, and what to be abandoned of the 10 non-virtues.
第24戒，三戒断除十恶皆同一。那么一般人有一种观点，就是说别解脱戒、菩萨戒、金刚乘戒，一个比一个难，或一个比一个容易。那有些人认为说别解脱乘的这个戒律呢是 不容易持守的，因为说不能杀盗淫妄酒，这些呢有些时候是不容易守持的。可是即使说这个不容易来讲，但是比起菩萨戒的持守来讲是容易多了。那有些人讲说哦，金刚乘你可以喝酒啊、吃肉等等的，但是实际上呢，金刚乘的修持戒的修持可能更加的难，有这种讲法。但是吉天松公子祖师指出说，这种看法也是不对的。不管你持的是哪一层次的戒律的，都同时必须要修十善而弃十不善，并不是说这个你自己修这个哪一个层次的戒律，就不必要修十善，要舍弃十不善的，都是一样的。别解脱戒、菩萨戒、金刚乘戒，都是要行十善，弃十不善的。
Yanko Tigas Rintang Chimbo Mare, Chidan Rintang Ot Chimburete, in a Jarbu Kelata Rintana Yumaras, in a Gencha Chigre. Tendegi Sergi Gencha de Mip Halbachi Kelata Diana, Mit Jendaga Tonanching Mare, or that goes Sergi Gencha Tan to us, Yamatobe, Teta Chimbo in the Minsa Kesha to Yumarwa, Yinaya, Gencha Kona Chigre. Ichidutane, Petina Chinchene, Domba Sunkarayang, Pangja Megi Wapamati Chibarete. Yinaya Kanzagi Pangsurgi Tone Penatanji Kond Sheva Nanshin Chanchuki Simdan Deveton Pang Yundu Zane, Chanchu Simba Domba Chayung. Sangagi Wangdan Deve Nyamling Tone, Pangja Megeva Pang Yundu Zane, Domba de Sangag Domba Chandu. Tindu Domba Sum Sayate, Kanzagi Pangja Pongtangi, Nupaya Sen Toran Royundu, then Domba Sum Senehoda. Tendeji Chungares, Temado, Megiwa Jopang, Mabangatone, Cheperchia, and Yomare, say Tesonle.
The 25th verses state that through the progress of possessors, the vows become three. So what happened is in the 24th, when we talked about the three vital points same, then the question arises, if that is the case, then why do we need to have three different kind of vows? Then it comes to 25th verses, through the progress of the possessors, the vows become three. So like what the Lord Jesus states is that it is not difference between the vows. It's because the differences of the one who possessed that vows, one who possessed the vows, like the individual has this individual vows. The person who possessed the individual vows has its own kind of practice and his own kind of energy and own kind of its own validity is there. In the same way, the Bodhisattva vows has its own validity, and likewise, the Mantrayana practitioner has its own validity according to his capacity and quality. They have their practice. In the same way, it depends on the quality of their practice and also the stages of their practice. In the same way that the gold ornament, for example, the gold ornament, the same gold ornament was worn by, if that gold ornament was worn by the king, then people pay much attention, pay much respect, because this is worn by the king. And if the same gold ornament was worn by the minister, then you have a different kind of looking to that that gold ornament. You may pay respect, but that's not as respectful as or attention to what you have been given to the king. And whereas the same gold has been worn by an ordinary person, then you might have less just thinking that, oh, he is just wearing the gold ornaments. That's all. You don't have much attention for that. So in the same way, these 10 vows were dependent upon the possessed persons, like individual, bodhisattva, and the sacred mantrayana practitioner, according to their ability, according to their quality, and according to their practice, it was given a different name, whereas they are doing the same thing, same 10 non-virtuous practices.
所以在25偈这边讲，主人迁移则可行三戒。那在第24偈里面讲到说，我们这个3种层次的戒，别解脱戒、菩萨戒跟密咒称戒呢，他们的目的都是一样，都是断十恶行十善，都是同样。那为什么还要分成3个呢？那么吉天颂公主是就在第25偈这边有所解答的。他并不是说有这个3戒，这个必须要说这样子分开的，而是说这3个不同的戒乃是个人修行阶段跟主要应用层面有所区别，可是他们一样是有用的，也一样是有非常它特别的分别的功能的。别解脱戒也好，菩萨戒也好，密宗称戒也一样，只是他的功德或证悟的层次依个人的不同吧。我就想我们讲说，同样的金饰好，金子做的饰品好的，如果是国王所拥有或戴在国王身上的，一般人看到就会觉得，哦，这个是非常尊崇的，非常这个敬仰的东西。如果说是戴在大臣身上的话，那我们觉得说，哦，这个也是很难得的，也会很尊重。但是如果是一般人在戴的话，可能我们觉得说，哦，这个人就是穿金戴银，并没有特别的重视这样子。所以所谓的10戒也好的主要的不同层次的戒律呢，主要是看持戒的人他的修行的能力阶段功德有3种层次给予不同的名称，其实他们的本意它的本质都是一样的。
Tinansin pena sabar du chun ro chi na chu ge rangsin de lomba yimba tsam ma se chu ge rangsin de pe thangma re yin na ya negab la ko sacha ge chebar ge chu de te ji ge ni yo wan nan sin chu de te ji thowa mandawa khado mandawa juwa thande ji thebe re ko chilo ge chen la te ne re de chu konang ge ngome ge rangsin de thangma dang changma thande ji yin sungdu cha ne nganzu de ne thapsi peju che ne 초대 장마소야게 탑람나 때네 초그 고랑게 랑신 뭐마데 간티지 임바데 만주주 세우드네 지소 투야요래 계시 초 고랑게 랑신데 장 자와는 맨나 만주 탑시 간티지 배주 제바이나 장마소 투 말에 베티나 신체 용도 산에 나랑 쪽이 섬게 랑신데 산제 임바 섬게 랑신데 저마메바 임바 섬게 랑신데 뇨라 매바던데 지 인순도 자네 아니 난주 탑람나 때네 내갑게 강해당 내갑게 뇨몽 같은 거봐 매바 조인도 자네 그래 섬고란 게 랑신 뭐마데 술 세워 차야 투야던데 지 용되게 띠인도 자네 섬게랑신 상제 임바데 단단한 난주 섬게 산제래 마도베 단단 가랑 쪽에 섬게랑신데 산제 마임바지라 치에서 산제 조셔야 된데 개요 말에 띠인도 자네 단단히 도르지송 숨보되게 가르송 교류서는 나랑도 섬그란신데 산제래 근데 인상 나랑도 섬그란신나 산지게 연대 탐제대 륜지 주베 주지고네 여대바레스 계시 연대 륜지 주베 톤에 나랑솔라 탄다 매바이나 나랑솔은 배선 간지지 제바이나야 산지게 공반 톱식 말레스 베나 단지시와 난신 초코랑게랑 당신 그 짱마 짜와네 맨나 난소 탑시 간지지라 때나야 최대 짱마도 두 말레스 딘디 최대 짱마 조야도와 디좀생 가서 초코랑 문내게랑 신데 짱마 임베 좀생나 때 투용요레스 오페티나신도 단단가랑 저게 섬나지 남도 예바 녀몽 예바 동해 예바 근데지 레데 이나야테 탑럼나 때네 파 짱스르치야 요송도 자네 때네 가랑도 산제 스네 주용요레 딘디 근데게 산제데 단단네 가랑 저게 섬데 또 산제게 란신 연단다 냄베 란신 좀 매베게 란신 근데지 레데 요레스 대송받아
Now the Vajra verses 26, 27, and 28. I will talk all these three Vajra verses together because it has the same essence. Usually, we sentient beings, we have like mind, all sentient beings, whether we are animal, whether we are human being, whether we are male, female, or whatever. All sentient being has a thinking mind, thinking thing. And the nature of our mind is actually, from the very beginning, it's pure. It's clear from all this kind of complication. Usually what happened is, our clarity of our mind is obscured by all this kind of temporary complication. For example, the fire, the nature of the fire is to burn, or the burning fire, burning nature. Likewise, the nature of the water is wet, or like clarity of the water. So when the water and the fire, sometimes it like temporarily it may change. For example, the water with the different condition, you may find the different taste, or you may find the different clarity. But whatever it is, ultimately the fire is the burning nature, and the water is the clarity. And the same way, we need to put a lot of method, and we need to clarify, the clean the water, and ultimately we'll have the clarity of the water. We could able to make the make the water clean. In the same way, since our mind from the very beginningless time is pure and clear, we have a possibility, and we could able to make that mind clear, which is the Buddha nature. We can make it clear, as its nature is naturally clear, and from the very beginningless time, it is composite of the naturally pure mind. So for the time being, when it was obscured by our ignorance, obscured by our like a kind of emotion and so forth, but somehow with different kind of methods, putting practice, we could able to overcome all these kind of obscurations of our mind. So therefore, it is possible, is there. The possibility is there to make our mind clear from our from the obscurations. So these three Vajra verses talks about the clarity or the Buddha nature of our mind.
所以接下来堪千就是从第26偈直接讲到28偈，因为他们的意义是相关联的。自性本净离则功德具，三七道品为善逝心要，四无量心为诸佛体性。这边讲的就是我们的所有众生的本质都是相同，都有心事，不管我们今天是身为人 动物，或者是男性或女性，我们的心是本质清净不染污的，后来只是因为种种的无明而染污，让我们自己的心是不清明的。你比如说火的本质就是能够烧东西，而水的本质是湿的或者是清澈的。那当然，如果水加上其他的因缘的话，可以泡出不同的茶，或者是有清澈程度会不一样了。那因为我们的心是本质清净清明的，就像佛性一样，所以呢，只是因为后来因为我们的无明，我们的烦恼而染污了，产生了种种的障碍。所以这三偈里面讲到说佛性跟本性本质清明的道理。
Jamandala tene, Jevutela yang, Dewa Dungan Jamanda, Manguchi top de Yurko, Yungi, take on Nesur Tigre. Yina yang, Tendegi Dewadan, Dunge, Gewada, Megewa, Country Chilla Longs Junking, Simchinji Yina yang, Koranzogi Simgeranshin de, Sanji Yusunduzane, Maung Pala, Tartu Yunduzane. 심지에 탐제대 릭나네 산제게 릭레 성마 산제 토야 예베게 릭 심지에 임발라 산제 토야 맹킨 직대네 매바래다 대인도 산제 토야 예베게 릭 근데 인자 태바 탐제 릭직레스 대난신도 티베게 남샤 담문다 망부지 요래데 탈도 티바직레스 탈도 티바 친구 코나레 대인주산에 티바 탐제 릭직바레 티바 탐제 티바 찍레 딘두 디 줌센다오데 가르차송어스나 심진 탐제게 심결한신데 산지인비 줌센가 되네 심진 탐제게 심결한신데 산지인도도 심진 수윤 배전 제바 있나야 산지게 공방 토야 예바 산지게 공방데 지 가르소레 심진 카시제게 산지게 공방 톱송아 있는 근데 산지게 공방 좋은데 요 같은데 개 말에 심진 하나 소소기 배전 제와이나 심진 하나 소소로 산지 고마 토야 유대바래 디인두산에 태과탐지 릭지 태과지레스 디 점생라 때네 도르숭 순주바데 가르송 거스나 점생 텐데 인자 내가 년퇴당 랑산제당 근데 내가 록세진 서도산에 미게 왔잖아 줍댕게 심진 단소래 게웨게 삼로 야부 추네 멍코르 괜찮데 내가 록세진 세게 인도 텐데게 간사지이나 양 타르투근도 마옹발라 투수 릉보지기 되라 산지게 공방 톱 퉁킨 장장레 산지게 공방 마퉁킨 심진 찌양요 말레스 탐시 산지게 공방 톱도 롱와 어떤데 지게도 요레스 대인도 전에 전에 가서나 남수지 소수게 배순지 제토바 있나 산지게 공방 토야 여바지게 델람미세기 리기토는 치버요 말에 대난신도 드네 르탱게 토네 치버요 말에 탐지게 산지 공방 토토 그래 서야 다 대송바인 바래
그럼 중에 디 고마소 한지 지송해라 달라디 니바디
아서 제 간에 버리
아니 니가 디 권에 걸 고마소 제가 지금 달라 디지도
몰랐을라 다디 가르송 말
겨와다 미겨와 저부터 비서 어디니 고마소
알았을라 다 개와다 미게 말았네 건 제부 대와다 동해 통킨 텐데 다 남은 망부진 내가로 요로와야 제데 인양 내가기 티바 남은다 망보 내가블라 링 남은다 망부지 요래데 인양 타르투로서는 나와이나 심chen 탐제게 심결하신데 산지인 손도 자네 근데 수음 배전 제바 있나요 산지게 공방 토야 예배게 수음 배전 제바 있나요 산지게 티바 임발라 지바레스 대치도산에 티바란 타르투 제바요 말에 숨바라 티바 탐제 릭지 티바지스 점생 텐들라 때네 아니 난조반나지 년퇴당 랑산제당 다 로세진 세도선에 지단 릭체릭 세로와 배 간사 가시지 메게와 코너드 게와 때는 무중게 텐데지 이나양 텐데게 간사 되기 마음바 되서정부 제게 제라 코랑야지 게웨게 젠텐데란 체윤도 자네 람드rum네
타도 산지의 공방 톱투그레스 가연사는 denso 창마라 산지의 공방 토벌 제베기 주 데버시베 힘보 세야데 여바직 주르던데 차도 요래 송바레 대인데 자네 그냥 가랑 소지 섬슈추는 자요 말에서 탐제 산지의 공방 토비하게 누바 윤캔 누발라 체버 멘캔 근데 장장래 대인데 자네 소소소소게 산지의 공방 톱 들어가지는 배전 제고래 세야 대템바레 생각하라
Also. Now the Vajra verses 29 and 30 is the complementary to the rest of the other, like 26, 27, and 28. The Vajra 26, 27, and 28. And in the 29, it says all the vehicles are ultimately a single vehicle for a single spiritual disposition. Even listeners, self-realized Buddhas, and those with pervaded clinging, all will attain omniscient. So why Lord Jitan's stated here is that, for example, the quality of Buddha. We all sentient beings have the quality of Buddha, the Buddha seed, or the Buddha nature. Disregard of what kind of sentient beings and what kind of person you are, whether you are virtuous or non-virtuous, or so on and so forth. Whatever you do, the causes and conditions, it will follow. For example, if you do the virtuous action, it will follow. If you have the causes and condition, because you have the causes and condition of the virtuous action, you are bound to face the result of the virtuous action. In the same way, it doesn't matter what kind of body you have, what kind of sentient beings you are. Finally and ultimately, we all have our capabilities, the potential to become the Buddhahood. Why? Because we have a Buddha nature. We all sentient beings have a Buddha nature. Even the one who were perverted, who don't do the Dharma practice, who have non-virtues, and who don't practice the virtuous action. But later, when they meet with virtuous actions, when they meet with the virtuous condition, they would able to realize the Buddhahood. So it doesn't matter whether it is like individual practitioner, the self-realizer, sentient beings, or who don't do who is like who is like out of virtues or whatever. All sentient being has the same nature of same Buddha nature, and all sentient beings have the same quality of the Buddha, and all sentient beings have the seed to become the ultimate Buddhahood. Therefore, it stated that even the listener, self-realized Buddha, and those who pervaded clinging will also attain one day when the time comes, they would able to attain the omniscient, the Buddhahood. That is because we have a Buddha nature within ourselves.
接下来第29偈跟30偈一起讲，一切佛乘同种性同乘，声闻缘觉亦将成遍智。那这边主要是补充上面26到28偈呢。那为什么吉天松公主是在这边这样子说？因为这个主要是佛的功德，众生皆有佛性。那我们都有这个，我们也都有成佛的种子。那么这个所谓的善跟不善这些一切所做所行的都是以因缘法而来运行的。当然我们行善的话自然会有善果。那么我们的无论是不管我们是哪一种种性的哪一种众生呢，都有成佛的可能，因为我们都有佛性，即便是很糟糕的人或者是不修行的人，只要他未来时机成熟，他行善的修行的话都可以成佛的，不管他是声闻
缘觉或者是不同层次的修行人都是一样的，因为人基本上都有佛性，都有成佛的种子。所以今天我们就讲到这里，接下来下一次开始就讲总摄的法轮要义品，结行的偈颂。以此功德得证一切见，击败一切过患之敌众，生老病死杂乱诸波涛，轮回大海，愿度诸众生。犹如文殊勇士大智慧，复是普贤菩萨如是行，随其彼等一切我学习此功德等一切尽回向。佛陀三身之加持，法性不变真谛之加持，真切坚固聚集之加持，如是回向，其愿成就。以我以及一切有情众，三世所积善业与佛性，愿我与等虚空诸众生，速证无上正等觉妙报。金刚总持地利那罗语马巴弥勒法王冈波巴帕摩诸巴尊胜直贡巴愿诸噶举上师皆吉祥。殊胜菩提心妙宝，未生其者愿生其，一生者亦不退失，其愿辗转更增上。谢谢恳谦，谢谢看部，谢谢各位的口译者。我们今天的法教到今天为止，那么星期五2天以后同一个时间再见，谢谢。
Tại Việt Nam, theo ông biết là mọi người có thể unmute để chào thầy được không ạ? Dạ.